Hi, I kind of forgot to make videos. I missed one thing that appeared to alpha. Fortunately and unfortunately, this is the same exact session, so I can show that update right now. And I don't think I'm supposed to see a name tag through myself. I don't know, it's late at night, what do I do? Let's start with the smallest part of this update, and that's the changes to Dark Auction. If you talk to Centauri, you can see the two new items there. First of them is Sirius's personal phone number, which is a consumable item that gives you contact to Sirius, and also gives you 1% discount when buying items from Dark Auction, which is just peak capitalism. Second of those items is an accessory that gives you stats that change with each season in-game. They are random. You don't have seasons associated with specific buffs, similar to how you have it in that one accessory that does it, but it's random. You get 25 for related stat and 1 wisdom, including foraging, so that's going to be useful in future. There are some descriptions that I don't know what they mean, and I'm not going to study it. Okay, and that's literally it when it comes to Dark Ocean changes. Yep, second feature is a chocolate factory, which adds an event that starts in early spring the 1st, which is the beginning of a new SkyBlock year, and you also have this house. During the event there will be an NPC, I will talk about later, and you have this base. These NPCs seem somewhat useless, and their existence is pretty useless. However, they represent something that is way more useful, and that's Chocolate Factory. You might be familiar that in Boost Cookie menu there is an option to play Cookie Clicker, where you just click and you get stuff. And there's a leaderboard. There are no rewards on it on main server, but here there are, and it's also very expanded. It turned out into a whole idle game. You can use chocolate you generate with clicks to either increase the amount of chocolate you get per click or to buy employees. Hire would be a bad word because they are permanent. These employees will generate you chocolate per second, possibly, whether or not you are online. There are 5 of them, each of them gives 1 more chocolate per second than the last one, and they have multiple tiers. There's however a cap, which depends on your prestige. This game tracks how much all-time chocolate do you have, and once you reach a certain amount, you can pay a certain amount of chocolate to prestige. When you prestige, you get multiplier to the chocolate you get. You'll be able to unlock more rabbits, which we'll talk about later. You'll be able to hold more chocolate and level employees to higher level. And also get SkyBlock experience, as well as unlock some more features. During the Hypixel Hunt event, their eggs will spawn around the island. If you find the egg, you can right click it in order to get a rabbit. There is a lot of rabbits. As you can see, there are 28 per page, and there's 15 pages. What the rabbits do is that they grant you some chocolate per second and give you a multiplier to the amount of chocolate you get per second. The rabbits you get are kept when you prestige. If you get a duplicate rabbit, you will get a certain amount of chocolate depending on your production speed. Because the rabbits are kept, there's no reason to upgrade the chocolate per click thing, because who would want to click, especially since it upgrades 1 per instead of something faster, such as doubling it, or Fibonacci sequence for all I care. Another thing here is Time Tower, which has multiple charges which refresh after many hours. You can right click it to activate it and gain a multiplier to the chocolate you get, which is very useful, and you should always try to activate it. There's also a few more features which I don't know because I don't have that prestige. Another thing there is Rabbit Barn, which is also kept when prestiging, and it decreases the amount of rabbits you can have collected, which is useful. It's also very cheap. There's of course rankings, similar to the version of it on main server, and there are milestones depending on your all-time chocolate. Each of those milestones unlocks a new rabbit. There are multiple of them, each of them is associated with a specific letter. Last of them is Zephyr, requiring 500 billion all-time chocolate. You might be asking, what's the reward for doing this? That's a great question, because there's in fact a shop. In this shop you have many items. First of them can be delivered to Caroline, if you get 3000 of them, to get permanent health and Cocoa Fortune. Another item can be used to track Chocolate Rabbit eggs during the Hoppities Hunt event, which is very cheap and you should probably get it because it's not particularly hard and it's very useful during the event. Another thing is an accessory increasing your chance to find chocolate rabbits and increasing the amount of chocolate you get per second. It has itself 5 tiers, each of them requires particular prestige. Another thing is Dark Cacao Truffle, which is a weird word, which functions similar to Bottle of Fear, in a way where it grants a specific amount of a stat, which increases over time when you have it in your inventory, and at some point it will evolve to grant a different bonus. I don't have this, so I cannot tell you what this bonus is going to be, but it might end up giving SkyBlock XP and some permanent global fortune. Global fortune sounds like a very nice feature. Another thing is Chocolate Syringe, which is an item used on rabbit pets to upgrade them to mythic rarity, and last item is a cloak, which has pretty bad stats, except for Farming Fortune and Farming Wisdom, and all of the stats will be doubled during Jacob's farming contest, and you also have a chance to get more medals from contests. This however requires Zoro in Hoppities collection. And I think this is everything from this part. Now, let's talk about the mining changes. There's a lot of them, and I have various opinions on them. I have written them on a forum post, I'll pull it up on my phone, because otherwise I will have to alt-tab a lot and my keyboard is very loud. I've split the changes into several categories, starting with the category I called Idiocy, because Alpha has not restarted since April the 9th, when the Chocolate Factory was introduced on Alpha Network, but on April 11th there was a feature which increased the chance to find mineshafts by quite a substantial amount. This is not here, which very much complicates testing every single feature which is changed in Glassite mineshafts, and that's why I had to be here for hours. Second category are pros. Many items in Forge have been changed, namely Glassite Amalgamation now requires a double enchanted Glassite, however half of all the gemstones, which is useful because there's not many uses for Glassite, and the gemstones are useful in many parts of this game, so this will be easier. Another change to recipes is that Relic of Power now requires 1 perfect plate and 32 Glassite amalgamations instead of requiring 4 perfect plates. Another thing is that Tungsten Key and Umber Key now require 3 stacks of their respective enchanted resource, instead of requiring refined version of the resource, which means that it's more expensive, but it doesn't require hours of forge time. Another thing that takes no time to forge are bejeweled handles, which is good because otherwise there would be no sense to forge them because they can also be obtained as a drop. Another item made cheaper is the Verbal Metal Talisman, which previously required 4 tungsten plates, 4 umber plates, and now it requires only refined versions as well as custom amalgamations, which overall is cheaper because this requires a measly 30 million instead of, 60 in raw craft cost, which is not accounting for all the forge time that plates require. Portable Campfire has been buffed to reduce the cold by 50 instead of 15, and its cooldown has been halved from 10 minutes to 5 minutes. Its cost remained the same, however it's still consumable, so I don't think it's particularly useful. Another buff is to Tungsten Regulator, which was previously named Tungsten Keychain. Previously it would reduce your heat or cold by 1 for every 500 fuel consumed, but that has been changed to only 100 fuel consumed. I still doubt this is better than Sunny Side Omelette. Another change is associated with the museum because they added some new items to it, namely the Pelt Belt, the hand warmers, as well as all the chisels except the normal one. I'm not sure if all the other chisels are worth getting, but that's not my question to answer. Frozen Corpses, which I will not be showing you, give Heart of the Mountain XP. Lapis ones give 100, Tungsten and Umber ones give 1000. On top of that, they also have a guaranteed powder on top of the powder they occasionally give. Lapis ones give 500, and Umber/Tungsten give 5000 Glassite powder. Corpses also seem to have more drops, but that might be just random, and because I have better perks on Alpha than I have on Main. Another good change is that the collections have been reorganized, so that the forgeable items are now unlocked easier, with the fortunes being pushed back, except for items that are good and supposedly worth getting, which I will get about later. So as you can see, keys only require 25,000 collection and metal retrieval require 1 million. The Mineshaft Explorer commission now only requires entering a mineshaft instead of discovering it, which means it's doable in a party easier. Last thing is very niche, and that's that these 15 blocks on main server are not mineable, however they are mineable here, which is nice. And something I reported. Last good change of this update is that they added the NPC Cold Enjoyer, which explains exactly how does the cold stat and cold resistance work, which you can see with the screenshots that I should be providing on the screen. Now, let's talk about the bad stuff about this update, because there's a lot. Starting off with Classic Golem, which gives 125 mining speed and 100 mining fortune, as well as Pristine, which is incredibly strong. Speaking of pets, Balpet on Alpha gives free Pristine when inside of magma fields instead of 15% bonus to all stats. This, however, has been confirmed to not be present when this update gets on main server. However, it is a feature that is planned to be released later, which I hate. Another thing is a change to Legendary Scatapet, which I do not have, which is also confirmed not to make it on main server, because it is just a side effect of something else they did, and a bug. Museum also is a blessing in disguise, because to be completed it requires Pendant of Divine, which is even more ridiculous than Enricher. The campfire has been changed to not instantly remove all gold you have, but instead remove it gradually, which is... They added an emissary in here, which yes, is a bad thing, because then people will think that they can use this area without having Royal Pigeon, which requires 500 commissions. Which is seriously not a lot, because on main I have 7,000. And speaking of commissions, they added Crystal Collector, which requires finding crystals from Gusset Mineshafts. Do you know how a few seconds ago I mentioned I have 7,000 commissions? In the 3,000 commissions I have done on main, I have not been able to discover a single mineshaft with crystal in it. Another commission they added is Maniac Slayer, which requires slaying 10 maniacs inside Gusset tunnels. So if you go in a party and they steal your kills, we will just not get this commission. And I'm pretty sure there are some particular Gusset mineshafts that straight up don't have it. Another absolutely terrible change is that they nerfed the Glistening Reforge for no reason whatsoever. It gives less mining fortune but more intelligence, which is great because when they added Brilliant Reforge, it was better than this one for intelligence. They cannot stick to one thing. Last thing is related to the Paleontologist enchantment, which, as you might be familiar, is additive instead of multiplicative, which means that every single thing you break on a main server had 12.5% chance to give you suspicious scrap, which was ridiculously OP if it weren't for the fact that you can only proc suspicious scrap once per mineshaft. They fixed this, and now on Alpha, despite having Paleontologist 5 and no stone unturned 51, if I were to hold my blue cheese drill, it was impossible to get despite how much I tried. I have suspicious scrap only because I got it from frozen corpses. Suspicious scrap being hard to obtain is stupid because you need a lot of suspicious scrap to get all the fossils to give to Dr. Stone and then to get them again to actually forge the pets, which, considering that Ammonite and Mold do not require the fossils donated, you still need 14 fossils, which is a lot of scrap to be obtained. And lastly, I would like to talk about the changes that I do not have any particular opinion because they don't exactly do anything. First of them is that the campfire is now animated. Okay. Another thing is that they renamed the Gusset Chisel to Gusset Plated Chisel and the Tungsten Keychain to Tungsten Regulator. And last change in the update is that they reformatted Peak of the Mountain so that it's more compact. So yeah, this is everything from this update, minus the bug fixes, which I will not go over because I do not know all of them. And yeah, I hope this gets changed.